Hello there, welcome back. Today, in the middle of July, I'm gonna finally do my June wrap-up. During the month of June, I actually read 12 fucking books, which is unprecedented in my reading life, I think. Well, at least in the last 6 to 7 years, you know. Maybe before I got into college, I was able to do that, but nowadays, I thought these days were far behind me, to be quite honest with you. I was quite surprised, and I'm quite pleased with myself, you know. I didn't have to pressure myself into it or anything like that. I kind of just did it, you know. I kind of just read 12 fucking books. I'm very happy with that, I'm not gonna lie. Here are 5 of the 12 books that I read. These are the only 5 that I own physically. And I was gonna hold them up and show you the covers and all that, but my wrist decided to be a fucking bitch today, you know? I thought, wow, today's the perfect fucking day to be a fucking bitch. So, you know, I just didn't have that many options, so I piled them up here so you can see the spines and the titles, but I'm also gonna put the covers here. So last month, the Olympic Games Readathon happened, and I actually joined it. I took part in it, and 8 out of the 12 books that I read were for this readathon, and I actually managed to complete my tibia, you know, the one that I set for June. Who would have thought? I managed to complete the 5 main prompts for the Aphrodite team, which was my team, and I also managed to complete the 2 advanced challenges, so that's all very quite exciting, isn't it? And I'm gonna just get into the wrap-up now, because you don't want to hear me mumbling about things, do you? So first I'm gonna talk about the books that I read for the readathon. The first one was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Yes, I finally read it. It's 2020 and I finally read it. Please congratulate me. So this takes place in a fictional land called Ravka, and in Ravka you have this thing called the Shadowfold, and it's basically like a stretch of land that is covered in darkness and is filled with monsters. And you actually have to cross through the Shadowfold in order to get to the other part of the country and get supplies and all that. And in this world, you have the Grisha, who are basically like people with these abilities, these special abilities, powers. I don't know what to call it. So they are divided in 3 orders. So there's the Corporalki, Eterialki and Materialki. So each of them has like specific types of powers. The Corporalki have powers that have to do with like the body of others, so like they can stop your heart or they can heal your wounds and all that. And then the Eterialki are the order of the summoners, and they can basically control the elements, so you can be a person who controls the air or fire or water. And then you have the Materialki, who are basically the ones who invent things, and they can create things with their hands and all that. And the story follows Alina Starkov. She's part of the army. She's 16 or 17, I'm not quite sure, and she's about to go through her first mission through the Shadowfold, and she's quite scared. And in this journey through the Shadowfold, her best friend Mal is actually attacked by one of the monsters, and in order to protect him, she ends up awakening this dormant magic that she didn't know she had. And basically she finds out that she is a sun summoner, because the Eterialki, the order of the summoners, they have air, fire and water, right? But there's actually also summoners of dark and summoners of light, and Alina is a summoner of light, and the only summoner of dark is the commander of this army of Grisha. And yeah, the story basically follows Alina through, you know, her self-discovery of being like a sun summoner, and you know, her relationship with the best friend who she has a crush on, and her relationship with the Darkling. This was quite fun, I have to say. I was a bit scared going into it, because most of the people that I see online, that I watch and all of that, say that this book is very bad. And my friend Juno, who lent this copy to me, she loves it. So it was a bit scary, because I always see people either loving this or hating this, and I didn't quite know where I would fit, and turns out that I actually just fit in the middle. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun reading it, but I can recognize that, it's not that great of a book. The writing was nothing special most of the time, and Alina could be quite irritating, but I found that, her being irritating made sense for her character, I thought she was a well-rounded character, whether or not I liked her as a person, if you know what I mean. But the thing is, I was reading this book, and up until the halfway point, I think, I was actually loving it, I mean, the writing again was nothing special, but the story in and of itself and the characters and, the world building and the magic system and all that was very nice. I was really liking it, but I have problems with the way the story ended up developing, the way the story actually ended up, and I don't know, I think most of it has to do with personal taste, but I just thought the story would be much more interesting if Alina actually was more morally grey, if she actually was smarter too, a bit smarter. I feel like for a person who grew up in the way that she grew up, living through the things that she lived through, I thought she was a bit too naive and a bit too stupid. That sounds really mean, but And I was reading it and I was thinking that it would be a bit more like Alina and the Darkling having to outsmart each other, every step of the way and all of that, and it would be very morally grey, and they would both kind of keep each other in check, he would not let her be too good of a person, and she would not let him be too bad of a person, if that makes sense. And we just expected her and Mao to just be friends, and I kind of hated it when they started having a romantic interaction, because the thing is, it seemed like she was starting to see her crush for Mao as a crush, and she was starting to feel something for this other guy, and it seemed like she was seeing her relationship with Mao more as a friendship than anything else, and I was really liking that, and I really like the idea of them staying friends, because I actually quite like the friendship, and I actually quite like Mal as a character, but the two of them together, I don't think I could think of a more boring couple. So I gave it 3 stars. I liked it. It was fun. But yeah, it was, yeah. Well, my reviews are just fucking great, aren't they? Just, yeah. The second book that I read was Abroad by Liz Jacobs. This is about Nick, who is a Jewish Russian immigrant in America. He moved to America with his family back when he was 10, I believe. And now the book starts when he goes to London to study British history in college, and he meets this group of friends, this group of people who take him in, and one of these people is Dex. Dex is this black queer guy living in London, and he has been going to college for a few years, and he just recently broke up with his boyfriend, who he found out was cheating on him. And he's just kind of navigating heartbreak and not really wanting to get involved emotionally with anyone again, at least not for the time being. And he's actually dealing with a few stuff from home, a few things from home, because his parents actually moved with his little brother to this overly white neighborhood, and his brother is having a lot of trouble kind of like fitting in, and living his life, especially in school, in this new neighborhood with so many white people. So it's basically about the two of them. And also the third main character is Izzy, and Izzy is this girl who is part of the friend group, who is basically coming to terms with her sexuality and kind of discovering that she's bisexual as an adult. So this book was so fucking cute. So fucking cute. I loved it so much. I love the 3 main characters. I loved the writing, and I just really loved reading about Nick's experience being Russian and being Jewish in Russia, and, you know, his experience as an immigrant, and also his exploration of his feelings, you know, regarding his Russian heritage and all that. It was all very fascinating. Liz Jacobs is actually a Jewish Russian immigrant in America as well. She moved to America when she was a teenager, I believe, so the rep for that is in Voices, and she is a queer woman. I'm not quite sure what her specific labels are, but I know she's married to another woman, so she is part of the LGBT community. And yeah, it was just, I loved reading about these characters, and I loved how diverse the whole group of friends was. We have a trans man who is one of the friends, and we have this girl who is Indian and she's a lesbian, and it's just a lot of different types of people. I'm sorry, I can't think of a better word, but yeah, I really loved it, and I loved the writing, and I love the fact that all of the main characters have very distinct personalities and very distinct voices, and all of them have a history, you know, and yeah, it was just very good. I loved the whole build-up of Nick and Dex's relationship, you know. I loved seeing the story unfold and how the relationship evolved, really, because at first Dex was not interested in anything emotional, right? And they first became friends, and their friendship started developing into something else and all that. And it was very slow burn. Very, very slow burn. Which I love. So, in the end, yeah, it was just very good. Very good. I highly recommend this book. And I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next I read Sweet Tooth by Ian McEwan. It's this one. In Brazil it's called Serena. This was actually one of the oldest books in my TBR. Oldest in the sense of like the books that I've owned for the longest time. And it was so disappointing. So disappointing. And so bad. I had read another book by Ian McEwan called Atonement, the one that based the film with Saoirse Ronan and Keira Knightley and James McAvoy. And I loved that book and I loved that movie. And, you know, I was very excited to pick another book by the same author. And this one is marketed as a spy thriller, you know, about a woman who is assigned with kind of like enlisting a writer into MI5, and basically she would be his handler. That was kind of like what got to me, you know, the information that got to me, that found its way to me. And it is not that at all. Just like I said in my media book freakout tag, despite people saying that this is a spy thriller, it's not thrilling at all, and there's no spying involved. The main character works at MI5, but she just works with the archives and, you know, typing documents, and she's not a spy, first of all. And the story in and of itself is not like horrible, but the writing, it seems like Ian McEwan was just trying his hardest to make this book as dull as possible. It was so dull. And boring. It was very boring. It was written in a way that made it near impossible to sympathize with any of the characters or to even care about what was going to happen, really. It seems to me like he just wanted to write something to comment on specific things that happen in British history, especially regarding the Secret Service, and also to make commentary on literature and all that. But he didn't want to write an essay, he wanted to write a fictional book, and the results were not good. This book thinks that it's so brilliant, it thinks it's so fucking smart, and it keeps pounding you over the head with how smart it thinks it is. I don't care. If I wanted to read something super smart, first of all, you either incorporate that into the book in a good way, or you write a fucking essay. Also, the characters were Oh my god. Oh my god. The main character was awful. You know, not as a person, as a character. She was so fucking boring. So fucking boring. I honestly have no words to describe it. It was a terrible experience. I only finished it because I own it. And I make myself finish every single book that I bought. And you know what the worst part is? The worst part is that we have a twist in the end. Like the very last chapter, the fucking epilogue is a twist. Which happened in Atonement, but in Atonement it worked because the book was already good. In this, it's cheap. It's fucking cheap. Yeah, now the rest of the book makes more sense, and the way the characters are written makes more sense, but at the same time, it's still fucking bad. I don't care if it makes sense now. It was awful to get through, you know? So, yeah, I gave this one a 2 stars, but honestly, the more I think about it, the more I think this rating was too kind. So I'm thinking maybe 1 star or 1.5 stars, I don't know. The 4th book that I read was Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, and I just thought it was okay. And I'm really scared of saying that a Jane Austen book was just okay. Please don't kill me, please, I beg you, don't kill me. So this book is about Catherine Morland. She's a 17-year-old girl who goes on this trip with some family friends to, you know, be more integrated in society and to meet more people and, you know, basically to take some time off from her family and have a good time. And there she meets a whole bunch of people, including a guy she ends up falling in love with. I think his name is Henry Tilney? I'm not so sure. I think that's it. And it's basically about that, you know, her in society and her interactions with these people, and yeah, it's that. And eventually she goes to Northanger Abbey, but that only happens like more than halfway through the book, so misleading title. Here's the thing, I loved the characters in this. I thought they were super well developed, super well rounded, and you know, all of them actually brought something to the story. And especially Catherine, I loved Catherine, and I thought that she grew a lot throughout the story. Catherine started the book as this very naive girl who just basically let people do whatever they wanted with her, you know, and she didn't really stand up for herself. And by the end of the book, she's still this very kind, she kept like her essence of being a very kind person and of, you know, just being very good and patient and all that, and she's still a bit naive, but she stands up for herself by the end, you know, and she understands the world a lot better. Mr. Tony, sometimes I loved him, and sometimes he just made me, you know. The writing is very humorous, and that's both a good and a bad thing in my opinion, because the good part is I wanted to keep hearing more, you know, of what the voice told me, because it was very funny and, you know, just very light. And the bad part was that it sounded very distant, you know. I found it hard to actually connect with the characters because of the writing. And I just found the book to be very weirdly paced, you know, the pacing was very off, and I don't know, it took me a long time to manage to actually get into the book, you know. And I think a lot of that has to do with the writing and with how many things Jane Austen wanted to talk about in such a short book. So it was not a bad book by any means, but I just personally didn't connect with it a lot. You know, I had fun, yes, and I liked the characters, yes, but it wasn't mind-blowing or anything like that, you know. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. Next I read Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley, and this is a graphic novel and it follows this woman called Katie. She used to be a chef at this restaurant, but she decided to quit because she wanted to open her own restaurant, and this whole thing ended up making a lot of things happen in her life, like her relationship ended because of that, and it's a whole lot of things. And basically this follows her while she is waiting for her new restaurant to be ready, because there's a lot of, like, how do you say it, It's not reform. Jesus. Restorations, maybe? I don't know. But she's waiting for her restaurant to be ready, and she lives on top of the restaurant she used to work as a chef in. This is very weird. It's basically about her meeting the house spirit for this restaurant where she lives in and where she used to be a chef in, and this house spirit hands her a mushroom and a note, and this note says that if you want to fix a mistake that you've made in your life, you just have to write down the mistake and eat the mushroom and then go to sleep, and when you wake up that mistake never happened. And it's about that, basically. And oh my god, this is so amazing. This is so amazing, and this was so fun, and all of the characters were amazing. And I mean, they were not great people, but they were amazing characters. And I love the fact that despite Katie growing a lot through the story, by the end of the story she's not like perfect, you know, she's still a bit of a bitch, but a lot less than she used to be before. And yeah, I love the characters. The art in this is so fucking beautiful. Honestly, it is gorgeous. The illustrations are gorgeous, and Bryan Lee O'Malley is actually the creator of the Scott Pilgrim comics as well. So yeah, I really like his work, and I loved this graphic novel, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next I read Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. This is a novella that follows Binti, the main character. She is part of the Himba people, and she is the first of them to ever get approved at this specific university, you know. And she is very excited, she wants to go, but her culture kind of doesn't like that, like they don't approve of that, so she has to run away from home to join the university. The novella mostly follows what happens after a group of aliens break into the spaceship that is taking her to this university and murder everyone else but her. And this was fucking amazing. The world was very intriguing, and the author gives you just enough, you know, for you to understand what's going on, but at the same time leaves you kind of wanting to know more about it. I also love how the author establishes and explores different cultures, both between aliens and humans, and also between, you know, different groups of humans and different ethnic groups and all that. Binti is part of the Himba people, who are an actual ethnic group that exists in our world, and it's very interesting to see her culture. But also I love the fact that despite her being amongst all the humans who were from different cultures and they all thought her customs were quite funny and all that, she did not ever give up her customs and, you know, her identity as part of the Himba people and all that. I don't think she has even ever considered it, to be honest, and I just thought that was absolutely amazing. And I started reading a bit more into what Afrofuturism is, and it seems like that's a common thing between Afrofuturistic works. Yeah, I was just very fascinated, and I am really intrigued and interested in reading more Afrofuturistic works because it was just incredible. Also, Binti was an amazing character. I loved reading about her inner struggle, you know, because she loves her people and she loves her heritage and she loves her culture and she loves her family, but she also wants more, you know. She wants to study in this university and she wants to learn about other people and to interact with other people and all that. But even though she decides to run away from her people when she knows that she might never be allowed to come back, she still does what she thinks is best for her and what she wants to do, while at the same time not giving up her culture and the things that she holds dear to her heart about her people, you know. And it was amazing. And I think the other main character, I guess I could say, the next most prominent character, Opu, is a part of this alien race that invaded the spaceship and murdered everyone. And it was a fascinating character. I say it because it's the pronouns that are used in the novella. So it is a fascinating character. It starts hating Binti and wanting to murder Binti, but eventually the two of them kind of get to know each other better and understand the differences in their cultures and why they did what they did, and they start communicating, and the whole development of that is quite beautiful, and it's not a romantic thing in any way, you know. And yeah, it was very fascinating. I really loved this. The only reason I didn't give this a 5 stars was because I was a bit confused about the science and the gadgets and all that. Like, I still don't really know what an astrolabe is. I mean, I know what an actual astrolabe is, but I don't know what the astrolabes in this story are. You know, I don't know what they look like. I don't actually know what they do, because it seems like it works as a communicating device, and it's a MacGuffin, you know. It works as a communicating device. I think it works as a map as well, and it does a whole lot of things, but I don't actually understand it, you know. I don't know what it looks like, and I don't know what it really does. And I still don't really understand what a mathematic current is and what a master harmonizer is. And granted, maybe that's just me being stupid, you know, maybe I'm just too daft to understand it, but yeah, I thought I was a bit confused with these specific things, so I ended up giving Binti 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman, and this is also a graphic novel. It follows Charlie and Nick. Charlie is like the only openly gay kid at school, and he and Nick get paired up in this specific class, and they start getting closer, you know, and they become friends, unlikely friends, and Nick kind of starts feeling more towards Charlie despite having never felt anything towards men before, at least as far as Volume 1 goes. And yeah, he's basically starting to understand that he's actually bisexual. And this was just... it was so good. It was so cute. It was so wholesome. And oh my god, I just want to put Nick and Charlie in a jar and keep them in my shelf and protect them forever. And also, Nick was such a relatable character to me, you know, just like Izzy from Abroad. They were both relatable to me for the same reason, you know, which is coming to terms with your sexuality and understanding that you can like more than one gender at the same time. And with Izzy from Abroad especially, because she also started understanding that aspect of herself more as an adult, just like myself. But you know, Nick's struggle and journey with his sexuality was also quite relatable to me. And yeah, and he was an amazing character as well. He was so sweet. I thought the pacing was amazing, and the progression of the relationship between Nick and Charlie was, you know, very realistic. And yeah, it was just a very cute and very wholesome read. I highly recommend it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read for the Olympic Games Readathon was They Both Die at the End by Silvera, and this follows Rufus and Matteo, and they both live in this world where you get a call warning you that you're gonna die in the next 24 hours. Why did I take so long to explain that? I don't know. Excuse me, I'm just gonna lay here for a minute because my neck is hurting a bit. Yeah, the book follows Matteo and Rufus. They are both Latinx, and they both got a call telling them that they're gonna die. And they both get into this app that basically finds you a friend for you to spend your last day with, and you can choose between getting a friend who is also a decker, which is what they call the people who are gonna die, or a friend who is not gonna die. And you know, they end up being each other's last friend, and it basically follows the last day, you know. I really like both main characters in this. I loved both Rufus and Matteo, and I found Matteo's anxiety very relatable, you know. And this was quite an interesting experience because you know what the ending is gonna be from the get-go, right? It's in the fucking title. But I still held on to hope until the last second, you know, that things were gonna change. And Yeah, it was very heartbreaking. I cried. I shed a few tears at the end of this book. But it was very nice because at the end of the day, it's not about the resolution, right? It's about the journey. And I just really loved seeing the story unfolding, you know, and I really loved the way the story unfolded. And I also thought that it was quite interesting to see like the different ways that different people reacted, both to getting the call, letting them know that they were going to die, and also people who had someone in their lives who got the call, you know, and how people in general acted towards the Deckers, who are the people who are going to die. It was very interesting because there was no like a single way, you know, that people reacted. All these different people acted in different ways, you know, when they treated the Deckers in different ways and all that. It was very fascinating because like you had people who had a disregard, you know, towards the fact that this person was going to die, and they were like, okay, so you're going to die, so like do this for me and all that. And there were also people who were like overly caring, and there were people who were like, they were sorry for what was happening, but like, this is just life, you know. All these different people, and people who got the call when were like, oh, this is a prank, you know, there's no way this is gonna happen, I am a healthy person and all that. And yeah, it was very fascinating. I really loved this aspect of the book. I also thought the insta-love was quite realistic in this one, you know, and it actually really worked. It was written in a way that made a lot of sense, you know, because these two characters are gonna die, right? So emotions are high, and they are kind of like the only thing the other has throughout this day. So the way the relationship and the feelings evolve makes a lot of sense, and it was done in a very nice way, in my opinion. I also love the different Latinx identities we have in this. Rufus is Cuban American, Mateo is Puerto Rican, and Mateo's best friend, Lydia, is a single mother who is Colombian. So that was nice as well. The two characters had their own history and also a lot of people from their own lives, you know. And yeah, I just really loved reading about it, and I really liked this one, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, we are almost done. There's only 4 books left. We're almost done. It's okay. It's fine. So, in the month of June, I read 2 non-fiction books regarding racism. The first of them was Quem Tem Medo do Feminismo Negro by Djamila Ribeiro. This is a Brazilian book by a Brazilian author, and Djamila Ribeiro is a philosopher as well. She had this column in this newspaper where she basically talked about racism and misogyny and all that jazz. And this book is basically like a compilation of the articles, of a few of the articles that she wrote for this column in this newspaper. And it was very good. I loved how, you know, she talked about racism and misogyny both in like a general way, you know, as a concept kind of, and, you know, regarding things that happen all around the world, but also that she had articles where she was talking specifically about these things and how they happen in Brazil. Because the thing is, I think it's very important for people to read books, non-fiction books, on the issues that go on in their own countries. Like, yes, I like reading about things that go on in America or the UK and all that, but at the end of the day, it's more important for me as a Brazilian person who lives in Brazil to read about the way these things happen in my own country, right? Because like racism doesn't work in the same way in Brazil as it does in the US, right? We have different histories, and yeah, the experience is very different, right? So I think it's quite important for us non-Americans to read about racism and all of that in our own countries. I also thought it was quite interesting, and I liked quite a lot how Djamila used, like, she both talked about racism and misogyny and feminism and all that in a more general sense, you know, kind of like talking more about the concept or the movement in general and all that. But also, she sometimes took specific things, specific events that happen either at the world or in Brazil specifically, and uses those events to talk about any of those topics. One that comes to mind is one where she talks about how in Brazilian football, soccer, we haven't had many black goalkeeper, I don't know what it's called in English, like the person with the gloves who catches the ball at the goal. Yeah, we haven't had many black people in that position because I think it was in the 50s or the 60s, we had a very important game, a very decisive game, I believe in the World Cup, and we had a black goalie and he didn't manage to catch a very important ball, and kind of like he became a representation of his entire race, and it became a discussion of, oh, black people are just not good in this position, we can't do that because otherwise we're going to have the situation happen again. And not everyone talks about it with all these words, a lot of it is subtext, I guess you could say, but still, yeah, we have barely had any black goalies since this happened, and that's just crazy. I mean, it's not crazy, it's expected from a racist society, but and she talks about how white goalies who made mistakes or didn't manage to catch a ball or anything like that, people don't take that and say, oh, white people are just not good as goalies. They are no representations of the entire race. And she also talks about how that connects with the fact that we are taught from, well, ever since always, basically, that white people are the norm, So a white person doesn't represent the entirety of whiteness, but a black person, the other, they represent the entirety of their group, right? We are taught that from a very, very early age. And yeah, it was a very fascinating read. I really liked it, and Djamila's writing is so very accessible. I am not sure if this is available in English. I do know that some of her work has been translated, but I don't really know which of her books were. So yeah, it was very good. I don't know if I feel comfortable rating non-fiction books, to be honest with you. So I ended up not rating this, but it was a very good read. It was a very important, very relevant read. Next I read White Fragility by DiAngelo, and this is another non-fiction book about racism, but this was written by a white author, okay, and it focuses more on whiteness and on white people. Well, the tagline of the book is why it's so hard to talk to white people about race. And yeah, it's basically about that. It talks about how white people don't really see white as a race, and how that ends up making white people to see black people as other. And it also talks about how sensitive white people get in discussions regarding race and racism, because we are taught to see racism in this good and bad binary, So if someone says to you, you are racist, you think that is a personal offense to you because you were taught that racism is a bad thing, but you weren't taught that racism is a systemic thing that is ingrained in all our minds, and we have to deconstruct that every single day. And yeah, it talks about how white people get so sensitive in these discussions, and also how they center themselves in these discussions. I have conflicting feelings regarding this book. I thought it was quite interesting to see the perspective of a white person who is specialized in whiteness studies. That's a bit hard to say, whiteness studies. DiAngelo is specialized in that, and so it was interesting in that sense. The thing is, the things discussed in the book and the information present in the book and all the concepts and all that are quite simplistic. So this is not necessarily something I would recommend for you to read if you have been like reading about racism and educating yourself on racism for a while and you have read many books already, you know. But at the same time, I don't think a book by a white author should be the first book you picked up if you're trying to learn about racism, right? Because there are many non-fiction books regarding racism by black authors. So it's kind of stuck in this weird position, like, it's a different perspective, yes, but I don't really know how valid that is or how relevant that is, if that makes sense. But yeah, I have very conflicting feelings on this one, so I am glad that I don't read non-fiction books, because I honestly wouldn't know what to rate this. I am going to leave links in the description of reviews by black people of this book, because those are the voices that we actually should be hearing right now, right? And also, reminder, there are still links in the description regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, master list of resources that includes books, non-fiction and fiction by black authors, also businesses owned by black people, and movies. There are a whole lot of things in that master list of resources. What the fuck happened? Yeah. Please check it out, I highly recommend it. It's very, poignant and very important. And there are going to be some other links regarding other issues that are happening in the world right now. So please check it out. Please check all of them out, because the world is in shambles and it's past time that we actually take an active role in changing this mess. Okay, so the last two books that I read were romances. The first one was Credence by Penelope Douglas. I have an entire rant review of this book. I will link it in the card and in the description. Please check it out. Basically, this follows this girl called Tiernan, and she is the daughter of a couple of very famous film people. Her father was a director and her mother was an actress. And basically, her parents committed suicide, and her step-uncle is assigned the role of her guardian, right? And she goes to live with him and his two sons, and it's basically about her relationship with them. And when I say relationship, I don't mean like family relationship and all that. That is involved too. But I mean, yeah, romantic / sexual relationships. Listen, that is a law that I am okay with reading in fiction. Okay, let me just make it explicitly clear. I picked this up because I wanted to read something dark, fucked up. And I am okay with reading a lot of things. I am okay with a lot of things being in books. What I am not okay with is the way the sexual assault was treated in this book. Okay, when I'm reading a fucked up book, I don't care, about the fucked up things that are portrayed in the book, as long as they make sense for the story, okay? The thing is, the character, Tiernan, the main character, she was, going down the road, and she was starting to understand things in a good way and in a specific way, and that was making sense. And then in the end, it did a full 180 and went back to whatever it was. I'm not explaining this properly. Please check the rant review out. There I go very in depth about it and my thoughts on it, and how I think it was problematic in a way that I personally didn't accept or like. Just to make it clear, I don't think people who like this book are bad people. This is an adult book written by an adult for adults, and it is not my place to kink shame anyone, okay? So if you like this book, great for you. I am so happy for you. For me personally, no. So yeah, I don't know what to rate this. If the last chapter in the epilogue were different, I would have loved this book, because all of the fucked up shit made sense, and still there would have been a satisfactory ending, but the way it actually ended, I just can't get behind it. So yeah, I don't know what to rate it. I considered after the ending rating it 1 star, but I feel like that would be very dishonest because there were many things in this book and many parts of the book that I really loved. So yeah, I just don't feel like it would be honest. So I am still navigating all these conflicting feelings and emotions that I have for this book before I actually rated anything. And the last book that I read in the month of June was Love Unsolicited by Alexandra Warren. This book is a black romance and it follows Joella and Key. Key is nickname for Keanu, by the way. They both meet at the bar in a hotel, and basically Joella is there because she usually, I don't know what it's called, but she talks to the person for a long time, usually like older man, and eventually she gets them distracted enough to basically steal their money. I don't know what that's called. I think that's a hustler, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, she does that. She is trying to do that with Key, and he asks her to go to his hotel room, and that is not typically something that she does. She usually just sticks to the bar and sticks to the talking, but because she is very physically attracted to Key, she decides to go, and they both have sex, and she is caught by him trying to steal his money. And so he says, listen, if you wanted money, I think you can have a pretty sweet agreement. It's because I know that you enjoyed having sex with me and I enjoyed having sex with you, so we could have sex and you could get paid. And so basically they start this transaction, and it eventually starts evolving into feelings and an actual relationship and all that. I really like this. The smart was good, but it wasn't written in the way that I typically like it. I like my smart more descriptive, so I didn't think this was that hot, but still it was very good smart. I am more of a Talia Hibbert and Penelope Douglas kind of girl. That type of sex description, the type of smart writing is what's more, sexy to me. So yeah, but anyway, this was not bad by any means. It was good. It was just not to my personal taste, but I really love the characters, both Key and Joella. I really love them both as characters. I really love their background and the story. I thought the plot was very nice. I really liked seeing their relationship change and evolve into a different thing, and I was really satisfied with the ending. I really loved it. I just thought it was a bit too short. I would have liked to read more about these characters. I would have liked it to have, I don't know, at least 30 more pages or 50 more pages, because I thought it was quite fast. It was very fast paced. So yeah, that is a problem for me personally. But overall, I really enjoyed the experience and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I can't believe that I managed to finish this. I was dreading this moment for so long. I have been trying to film this video so many times up until this point. I think this is the 3rd time that I attempt to film this, so 3rd time's a charm, I guess. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe and comment if you feel like it, and as always, I'll see you around.